Hey everybody, it's Patrick Ryder with the 901 podcast. I'm the owner of the Insurance Shop of Tennessee and Oddfellow Sock Company. And with us today is Dr. Brandon Nwali. He is the owner of Collierville Vision Center. Brandon, how you doing, man?
I'm good. We're actually back to work now. Started seeing some patients last week, so it's kind of a different feeling, actually having to get up in the morning and get dressed and all of that stuff again. So it's been really good. Glad to kind of get back in a routine.
I think everybody's ready for some type of normalcy. I know my schedule has been pretty much jacked up for the past 2 months. I've been looking forward to getting back in the office and doing the normal things again.
Yes.
So let me tell you about our guest today. I'm going to give you a little secret before we get started. We may want to hide this podcast from our wives. Me in particular, because I have this bad feeling when she listens to them, she may end up putting them on speed dial. And kind of sidetracked, who do you think people under 30 know what speed dial even is?
No.
But we got with us Holly Kulp and Tanya Springer. They are the Springer sisters, and they are a professional organizing company, correct?
Correct.
Thank y'all for coming on the show. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of months, and we're just like anybody else. It's nothing we could have really prepared for, nothing we expected. Yeah. It's given us an opportunity to do things like this that maybe we wouldn't have had time to see or notice. And we've been connecting with people in a technological way rather than in their home. So it's been different, but a kind of a positive learning experience in some ways, anyway.
Were y'all able to do some of y'all's work during this time, or was it completely?
Unfortunately, since we are such in people's homes, really relationship building, we're there one-on-one helping people. Right when this hit, I was on spring break with my family that week, and then we came back and we were done. So we abided with the safe at home, really didn't go anywhere. And then once they lifted that May 3rd, I think was the when we finally said, okay, since we haven't been anywhere, we feel confident that we're safe to go back in clients' homes. But it's still, we're tiptoeing back in. A lot of people are, scared to have people in their houses, which we totally understand.
For one place they feel safe. So we have to work our way back in with people's comfort level, and that's just going to take some time. Luckily, we quarantined kind of together, so we've been able to still work on stuff together, but we haven't been able to get anybody's spaces.
So I am awful at jumping around, but y'all are a fairly new company, right? A few years old, correct? So kind of jump in a time machine and tell me how y'all even got started, like the idea, and then who convinced who to go into business together? How did it all come to play?
I don't know if we could ever say there was one of us that took the lead on that, but we always knew. I know it is weird because one of us is always pulling one in the other direction. But we always knew we wanted to work together, and our professional lives were very different. Mm-hmm. And then a few years ago, probably 5 years ago, I guess, we really started to think, hey, we really want to work together, own something together, do something together. And we just molded over and put our strengths together and our passion together, and it just really fell into organizing. So she actually took the lead. She was living in South Carolina at the time and started the education process of it and started taking the classes and doing, because that's real important to us too, because unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, anybody can call themselves a professional organizer. There's no requirement to call yourself that, but we're just kind of weird.
Well, we're rule followers, and we like to be credible, and so we wanted to do all of those things. Plus, I wanted to make sure that this wasn't just some crazy idea that I was like, this will be so fun, and that once I took hours upon hours of courses and started to work with people and implement that it really was all I thought it was going to be. And so it gave us a chance to do that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it started. It was interesting. I mean, she probably doesn't remember this, but the actual day that this happened and we decided it was this, we had talked about multiple things, but she was driving home from Home Goods, which is her favorite place on the planet. And she was buying some more bins and baskets and stuff for her house because she's always trying to do something. And with 3 kids and a busy family, there's always some space to organize. And she called me and she's like, I don't know why we're thinking about anything else. This is what we love doing. This is what we need to do. And it was right there on that random phone call on her way home from there that it was like, okay, we've decided this is the thing. So,
yeah, zero recollection.
Yeah,
zero recollection of that.
I do, because I couldn't believe she finally could. I was like, she's really going to work with me. Oh my God, that's so great. So yeah, it's been kind of an exciting ride. We're fairly new, and in some ways we feel brand new, and other ways we feel like we've been doing it for quite a long time. We've had a lot of unique and fun experiences already. So
and we're so different that it works really, really well. Even in our behind the scenes office roles, like she's our communications director. She's amazing at communicating with people. I'm not. That is just, she's great at it. She can read people well. I'm just not that way. I'm the IT girl, the marketing girl, the art girl.
She's very task oriented.
We don't clash with abilities. So it's really worked out. Even with clients, we act differently. We always say she's the encourager and I'm the enforcer. She's the one, which is awesome that we're a 2-man team, because when we work with clients, she's pretty much with them, walking them through verbally the process and asking all those questions. And I'm hauling the stuff out, doing the, not really focused on their emotions. And she can tell me with a glance of her eye, I know, okay, the client's getting tired. I'm not paying attention to any of that. I don't really pick up on that.
She's in go mode.
I'm in go mode from the minute I walk in, but her strength, I mean, she can go too. She's great at it, but she really reads the client. So she can tell, all right, they're about done. Because organizing, it does get overwhelming, especially going through sentimental things and all that kind of stuff.
It's mentally
exhausting for people.
Yeah.
So she can, I mean, we have looks and we don't even have to say anything. And I know, okay, we got it. They're done. Because I still keep pushing them. And she's like, all right, pull back. It's time to stop for the day. So we really balance each other out well in ways that we didn't even know existed.
We've kind of just fallen into our natural rhythms when we start a project. There are certain things that she likes to start on and certain things I like to start on. And luckily they're not the same things. Although we can each do most of the things the other one does, it's better if the other one does it. So.
Well, y'all really answered kind of my next question, because I was curious about that dynamic of working with family and sisters working together. If there was a mesh or if it was clashing quite a bit. We had actually the people that the one we released today was a husband and wife team that does real estate, but one of them is awesome customer facing and the other one is awesome at the marketing and the technical side of things. And it kind of sounds like there's some of that going on with y'all.
Which is good because we're both very stubborn. She would say I'm more stubborn than her, and I would say she's more stubborn than me. But I let her go with whatever she wants to do, and she kind of lets me go with whatever I want to do, and we trust each other. So it's not.
Yeah, it hasn't really been. I mean, there have been moments, sure. I mean, like there are with anybody in any relationship, but they're pretty quick, and you get over them and you move on. But I really think the biggest challenge wasn't really the working together part. It was we haven't lived in the same place, in the same town, in over 20 years. So the getting used to not only working together, but seeing each other all the time, which was really super exciting for the first 90 days. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's her again. And just kind of figuring out those roles and what's normal and when am I your sister and when am I your business partner. And that takes a while to navigate. And there are still days when I'm like, okay, we haven't done anything as sisters in forever. And I don't want to talk about this today. I want to talk about movies or Southern Charm or whatever. Like I want to be goofy. And so I think that's actually been more challenging for me than the business piece.
Probably because she's very task-oriented list, good at doing her time. I am when the idea hits me right then. Like I do all my thinking in the shower. Throughout the day, I will think of something and I'll start doing it. That is not how she operates at all. So if we're trying to have a sister day, in the middle of it, I'm like, oh, this would be a great idea for what? She's like, no. I was like, but that's how I operate. Like I'm not good at. It's just a creative process for me. I don't operate that way.
And I'm not creative. So I am from 10 to 2, I'm going to work on these tasks. And when 2 o'clock is done, I'm done. Wherever I got to, I'm finished.
She's done.
I'm done. And I can switch my brain off and move to something else. And she doesn't operate that way. So that's been kind of interesting to see too.
So did y'all came from a corporate, or I guess your regular 9-to-5 background? I guess tell me a little bit about that, but then also, like, was there some hesitation going business for self? Because going business for self for anybody is scary. It's not easy to do, and it oftentimes is a lot harder after you do it. You realize that what you thought was gonna be this ended up being 3 times harder than what you thought it was going to.
Well, I think it's been very scary and challenging for us for 2 very different reasons. And I'll let Holly speak to hers in a second, but hers was juggling a family and going back to work after she hadn't for a little while. For me, I literally felt like I was giving up everything, from leaving a job I'd been with for almost 18 years, a part ownership of a franchise, moving from South Carolina back to Tennessee, literally leaving absolutely everything to employ myself. That's very scary. So yes, and I try to block it because there's nothing good that comes of that. I mean, there was a plan and there was a cushion and there were financial choices that were made, and how long you've got to do whatever. And
then a little thing called Corona comes along.
And really, which has been not ideal. But yes, it was very scary. I can say I have not regretted it a single day. Not a single day. And Holly's is different. Hers, you may have regretted it a day or two.
No, mine's, definitely not the fear that she had, just because I didn't pick up and move anywhere. I mean, I was here. I've been here since 97. My husband's from here. We grew up in Nashville. But it was because I can't turn my brain off. So that's a little bit challenging for me with the kids and the routines. And luckily my kids are older. I mean, they're 16, 13, and 9. So they can adapt to me working more. And a lot of it's mental. I mean, physically we're in clients' homes, but as you all know, your own businesses, you don't shut down. I mean, you're constantly working in your brain. And that's been a big adjustment for me to try to be more like her. And okay, it's 5 o'clock, I'm done. I'm still not good at it. And then just, it's scary for her to move here. And, I've brought her here. Initially, my parents moved here about 2 years ago.
To be close to the
grandkids. And then she decided, they all kind of came kicking and screaming. Because Memphis, they was like, why do we want to live in Memphis? We don't want to live in Memphis. But I will say, since they've all been here, my parents have been more social and more active and enjoyed more stuff than they ever did where they used to live. She has absolutely loved Collierville and living there. Yeah. And so that guilt has washed away for me, because I was like, oh gosh, I'm bringing them here. Are they going to hate it? And they love it. So just the responsibility that everybody came to me was scary for me, not really even business related, but we established a business here. And it's a little bit challenging because we're not from here. So we don't have that base of our childhood friends and everybody that knows us, and we're not calling on, we don't have an established base here. It's 2 Middle Tennessee girls who are sisters who are just jumping in. So that's been a little bit challenging, trying to find our people, so to say, and making those connections, which all new businesses do. I mean, you just have to start from the ground up and prove yourself. And
I think as long as you're, authentic, you are who you appear, you're who you are in person as you are online. You're relatable. I feel like that all falls into place. You build that trust. I mean, we have such an interesting industry. We're literally going through your drawers, there's nothing of yours we're not touching. And that is very an intimate relationship with people. And it always starts with hey, just come to our kitchen, because that's there's no emotion attached to that, nothing personal in there. And then once you do that and they realize, oh, okay, they aren't going to throw my stuff away. They do listen to me. This turned out great. I do love it. Then we get, will you do our bedroom? And then, those kinds of things. So I think that all builds on itself. I mean, would it be great to have a timeline of by this amount of time, we'll know this many people and have this many clients? That would be awesome. But wouldn't we all love that, you know?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And the excitement of the little fun experiences along the way, you know? I mean, I don't know. I think of every day as a new adventure. I had the same job for so long, doing the same thing, you know, that I love the not knowing.
Well, I think me and Brandon can both relate to some degree. I moved, so I went to University of Memphis, but I didn't grow up here, and then my wife did, so there is some ties there. But we moved to Nashville for a little while, and then we moved back here about 3 years ago or something to be closer to the grandparents because of the grandkids and all that. So I think we can relate to some degree with. And Brandon did the same thing. He was over in Franklin.
So we're all Middle Tennessee people. Yeah, we grew up in Brentwood, so we were kind of neighbors.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm actually from Mississippi, but I lived there for a little while.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can kind of relate to that, and not necessarily having a big customer base. This is kind of, I guess, more the nuts and bolts of how you're generating business. Or do you get a lot of business from real estate agents, or are there other avenues that you get referrals from, or is it you're doing a lot of marketing and being able to get people from your marketing?
I'll let you speak to that.
It's kind of a combination. It is a mixed bag. Anywhere from realtors, which we're stepping up our game on that. We've talked about it forever. We're just now really forcing ourselves to do that. Really, it's been referrals from clients.
That has been 95% it's referrals.
A client uses and refers us to somebody else. We do presentations as well, like at the library. We've gotten some out of that. But really, it's been word of mouth. And it's just, again, building that trust. Because it is. We're in your house. That's it's not like, it's just
well, and everybody wants to appear as though they've got it all together.
Right.
And the truth is, none of us do.
Right.
I mean, some of our houses may look more picture perfect, but there's something else going on. You know, so for people to let someone into their space, it can be scary for people.
Well, I feel like something's wrong with you if you're hiring a professional organizer. What's wrong with you? Like, it's just one of those things where, like, but it's no different than having somebody to take care of your lawn or help with childcare, or it's all those things but it has kind of a persona of, because we have made it unto ourselves that we should do it all, right? We're supposed to be able to do everything. And that, I think, is a barrier that we have to break through too, with this perfection that we all feel, especially in the social media world we're now all in. And we struggle with that as a business because most of our clients and our jobs are not Instagram perfection. And that's not what we're about. And it's difficult because people want those beautiful images. I mean, I love the beautiful images.
Yeah.
But we're more about having people discover their relationships with physical items and learning what's important to them and how to properly store it if it is important to them, and how clutter is related to mental illness. It's wellness, just or mental wellness, not mental illness, but it's all factored in.
And sometimes, I mean, honestly, you may be just as good as organizing as we are. You just don't have the time or the desire, right? And that's okay too. If you would rather spend your time on a Saturday with your family than organize your pantry, absolutely, that's what you should be doing. So bringing someone in so that you can enjoy what's most important to you doesn't mean that you're defective in this area. It just means that you
have prioritized your time with your family over the task of doing it.
Right. It's a finite resource. We're not going to get it back. Use it doing things that, that you enjoy.
Yeah. I tell my wife that all the time. Like, we have 3 kids, and when you clean up one room and they're in the next room destroying it. And so she's like, I'm just not a good mom. I can't keep the house clean. I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. You're prioritizing your time to take care of the kids and spend time with them and not worry about the house all the time.
Yeah. And that's back to the social media. I think so many moms now feel like they're failing in some way if there's a mess or anything. Like back in our day, growing up, like everybody's house, you have messes, but you didn't see it all, right? I mean, nobody was privy to anybody else's house or life in a visual manner. And now we're all bombarded with it constantly, that everybody's feeling like they have to be at this level or they're failing in some way. So we have clients that struggle with that, and it's part of our mission to get rid of that,
right,
whatever you want to call it out there. It drives me insane, but yes.
Oh, I can believe it, because I could see a scenario where like people are almost embarrassed to have y'all come and do stuff. I think of just we don't have somebody. I had somebody clean the house last Mother's Day or something, and I remember we had to clean the house before they came to clean the house because we were just so embarrassed by it.
Well, so people always let us in the door, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed for you to see this." And we look around, and we're like,
"Embarrassed of what?
Of what?" Like, I mean, this one, there's not even anything out of place. I mean, now there might, like, the closet would need some help or whatever, but it's not like you're walking into total chaos. I mean, we get all those questions like, "Have you had a hoarder? Have you done da-da-da?" And yes, I've encountered that, but that's not the majority of what we see. That's just that's not the majority of what we see. We see normal people with normal problems of trying to figure out how to make an awkward space work, or how to simplify their morning routine, or get dinner ready more quickly. I mean, it's really the simple things. We're about systems and function, and aesthetics are important too, but it's not always the number one goal. It's about you being able to use the space and it working for your individual needs, not just something you saw on Pinterest because it was cute. Not that that's bad, but.
So I know what are the services that y'all do the most? Because I know online I saw there's kitchen, even I guess playroom. I saw y'all have some great resources, because I saw there was like a toy questionnaire that y'all had under the resources, which I actually thought was pretty awesome, because I feel like if we tried to clean up our playroom, we would be fighting over every single toy with our kids. But the questionnaire actually works good. And I thought it made sense, because I saw one of the questions was, have you played with this in the last 3 months? And I think we hang on to a bunch of stuff that it's either half broken, or they just don't ever play with it, but we still hang on to it. But I guess, what are some of the services that y'all do? And then I saw staging as well. So is that one of the things that y'all are wanting to cater more to the real estate market? I'll let y'all.
Staging, we do, and then I'll let you talk about all the rest of the stuff. But with the staging, we stage with the things they already own, right? We don't own a warehouse full of furniture that we're going to bring in. What we do is try to just accentuate the features that your home has and make it look its best. And a huge part of that is the decluttering piece. Really, I mean, if you read any article anywhere, it'll tell you to remove 33% of your belongings from your home before it goes on the market, right? So it needs to look like somebody lives there, but not too much of living there. So we just did a project like that a couple weeks ago, actually, and it was super fun. But it was really about removing a little bit of the excess so that we could stage all the closets and the pantry and everything so that it looked like it's going to have an amazing amount of storage, right? Because that's what sells people on homes. So that's our staging piece. So it's a little bit different than some other people do. But yes, we had such a good time doing that project in the garage. We're going to be sharing those photos, I think, this next week. So people will be able to see that. But then we do the normal residential stuff too. Holly, I'll let you.
And a lot of it's mainly, people think, I mean, the playrooms and the pantries, but the ones that really are the meat of it, it's a lot of decluttering, downsizing for our older clients. That's a huge segment that kind of gets neglected, and they're stuck in this. Their children are busy raising their children and don't have time to help them crawl up in the attic and get all this stuff down. They're ready to move to a smaller footprint, maybe to start doing what they want to do.
And they can't physically get up in the attic
do
anymore.
it. But there's also that emotion tied when you have your daughter say, "Mom, throw that away." That's, you get a lot of family emotions and arguments going on, and then you have us come in who have no skin in the game, and we can walk those parents through the process, the objective people. That's one of our favorite things to do that a lot of people don't realize exists, and it just gets rid of any, because our own parents get frustrated with us because they know we're not keeping anything. Very little.
And they'd like us to keep everything.
And they have lots of things, and they are attached to things, which may be one of the reasons that Tanya and I are not attached to things. Not in some weird way. A lot of people are. I'm probably weirdly on the other side. I'm just not attached to things. But helping people see, back to the toys, is such a process. So you have children and they're playing with these toys and they've outgrown them. But you're convinced you need to keep them. You shove them in the attic. Then you bring them down when you have grandkids. And really, how many of those toys you played with as a child that have the spiders and the dust because they're not stored, they've been thrown in a cardboard box in the attic. I mean,
plus they're not new and cool and hip.
They're not going to play with them. So
right.
You've stored these toys in your attic for 25 years and they're just going to get tossed because your daughter-in-law, your son-in-law is going to be like, that's the nastiest thing I've ever seen. My kid's not touching that. We had that. My mother-in-law had some stuffed animals and my husband was like, get that. It was his mother. I would have never said it, but he was like, absolutely not. He's not touching that Elmo that's crusty that's been in the attic. So it's just allowing people to walk through those questions, really walk through the history of items and why you're keeping them, because every item in your home is really paying rent to be there. You got to think of it as, is it worth taking up rent in your home? And there is value to negative space in your home. People don't realize that either. Just because you have the space doesn't mean you have to use it. So that's one area, the decluttering, the downsizing, and then the life transitions, which we wish there was a different word for that because it sounds odd. But when people have a baby or they get divorced, we've worked with divorce clients. That's a huge process.
Or an illness. We've had people have a parent move in that's been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and they need help making the space work for a parent who has mobility issues, and they've got to clear things out and make it work really quickly. And they're emotionally overwhelmed with just the task of helping their parent, so they can't see to do the other things, which totally makes sense. So we've gotten to do a lot of different, really unique, and I think really impactful. If this didn't make such a big difference in people's lives,
we wouldn't be doing it.
We wouldn't be doing it. We 100% believe that people's lives are better when we leave. Every time.
And not because of us. I mean, I love us, but it's just the whole process. Again, people over things. It makes people value the people in their lives and not the stuff in their lives. And it just makes you less stressed. Like the amount of stress that the thank you notes we get, I mean, yeah, it's awesome. But we're just real passionate about helping people in the community. We're establishing relationships with charities, and that's huge for us too. We've kind of been slowed down a little bit on that because of Corona and being locked in the house. But we were on the roll of doing this and we had to stop. But at least once a month, we take a charity, whoever is in charge of that, we go meet them, take them to lunch, get to know them, get to know how we can help them. Because as we're decluttering these people's homes, we come across all kinds of things that are nice, wonderful things that can be put back in the community. And it makes the client feel so much easier about letting something go if they know it's going somewhere purposeful and well thought out. And like one in Collierville base is called Remembering Kevin's Light. And the mother, Terry Fick, is in memory of her son who died from an overdose. She's amazing. We met her. She collects used sporting good items and distributed them throughout the Memphis area to halfway houses, to schools, to all of that. And so she knows the people. So if we call and say, hey, we've got
a basketball goal, she knows who needs it the most and who's going to help get it. The other great part about what we do is not just knowing the right charity, but we take the items to be donated and we get them out of the home that day. We don't leave them for the client to deal with unless it's something that we physically can't move. We did have a basketball thing with that one time. But these are, that's another huge weight off their shoulders because they don't have to deal with the donation process. And quite honestly, a lot of people aren't going to make it to the donation site, or they're going to take a couple things back out of the bag and decide to keep them once we've left. So that's just another great part that's included in our, in our pricing and our projects, that we remove all of those things and get them to where they need to go.
So I will say, I guess a couple of things. One is with the elderly, what you were talking about, we've kind of gone through that. So that is an awesome thing. It's not the first thing that I think about as far as doing organizing or things like that, because but we just recently, within the past few years, kind of went through that. And it's honestly, I think it's probably nice to have a third party that's not emotional about the things. They're kind of guiding people through it, because with us, it was my grandmother. So it was me, my brother, and then my parents. But maybe my parents thought we needed to keep something, but at the same time, we're like, we don't know where to put this.
Right.
So it's almost nice having, I think for people, nice having somebody that's unattached to everything going through the process with them. So,
and it's important to let people know too that before you even get to that point, we're trying to train people as well
to think ahead and
really see if something is important to you. Tell your family about it. Tell them the story around it. Let them know what that picture in your foyer is that your grandfather took and had in. People don't understand. They expect people to know. We all assume things all the time, that people understand the value, personal family history value to things. But if you're never talking about it, chances are your son, your grandson, your great-grandson isn't going to give any thought to that painting in the hallway that meant so much to the family history. But if you talk about it, not guilting them into it, and one of our things we always say, this is kind of a sidebar, but it's one of my favorites. If you are trying to give something to somebody, and a lot of times it comes from a very loving place, always give them an out and you'll find out if they really want it. So if I was to say, hey, Tanya, I've got this, baker's rack. I think you would love it for your house. If not, I'm going to take it to the Dorothy Day house downtown.
I'm going to have a way easier time saying I don't want the baker's rack if I know she has somewhere else that it can go. Otherwise, I'm one that's operated on guilt my entire life. My sister is the total opposite.
Yeah. I have no problem saying no.
She says no to anything. And I never could say no to my family. And so every time I would get, that would...
To the point where she had a cradle full of stuffed animals in her house.
My mother,
40-something-year-old woman, because my mother didn't want to get rid of it.
In my 30s then. It's still
horrifying.
Like 3 months, I was like, this has got to go. It was like my cradle as a child.
So my mother didn't want to let go of it. So she didn't want it in her house. So she pawned it off, which is one of my sayings too. Your family's not your personal goodwill. So a lot of people too feel guilty if they get rid of it. They don't want it in their house, so they can shove it off on a family member. But we're trying to let people not guilt people into things too. So if you give somebody an out, if you're really willing to not guilt somebody into something, a lot of people aren't there yet, but you'll find out if they truly want something if you give them an out. Because she'll either say, I'd love to have the baker's rack, or, you know what, that's really sweet that you thought of me, but go ahead and take it to the Dorothy Day house. So that's one tip. We just always give somebody an out to see if they truly want that object you're trying to pawn off on them.
That's awesome.
Once they know that you'll say yes, I am proof of this, that it keeps coming. And I have ended up with some really crazy stuff over the years. Now I've been able to say no. Or I just take it and then I dispose of it once I get it. Now they're pretty much out of stuff to give me, I think. But it is hard. Family dynamics are hard.
Mm-hmm.
They really are challenging for everybody. And that's one of the big motivators behind us starting this business, was watching the estates being closed out from both sets of our grandparents, and the way in which people handled the physical things and how it caused strife over literally nothing. And people wanted to keep anything they had touched, and it could literally be, and I say this every time because it's the first thing pops in my head because my grandmother loved bunnies, but it could be like a bunny Easter decoration from Target for $12. It's like 5 years old and means nothing. Like nothing, but because it was theirs, we got to keep it. But we're never going to use it, and it's going to be in a box in our basement forever. But I'm not going to let anybody else have that. I can't give it away because it was, mom's. And it's just sad. It's sad because you want to remember the person and their love and the experiences with them. And that doesn't come from all of the belongings in their home. You should be choosing 2 or 3 things, which I think we've done every time. And they can be small things.
That was one of the things I asked people to do on Mother's Day. It sounds kind of morbid, but I don't mean it that way. Is to ask your kids, if I was no longer here, what 2 things would you want of mine that would remind you of me? And it would be surprising. You think it's going to be, something expensive or something, whatever. And it really will show.
It could be like your brownie recipe. Or like,
it's going to be something linked to some memory your kid has with you of your love doing something with them. It's not going to be the piece of furniture in the back. It's just really, that's one thing I think everybody needs to have those conversations. And then you'll know, hey, this is what I should leave them. And then they won't have any guilt about keeping everything else. And usually it's not the same thing. Siblings are not going to argue over the same thing.
And there are exceptions. But
It's funny that you say brownie recipe, just because when my grandmother passed away, she essentially took her cookie recipe with her. It was written down, but as a lot of grandmas do, they kind of have their own little things that they kind of do extra that's not written down.
Right.
And so we have been trying ever since to try to figure out what little secret she had to try to make her cookies, and we can't do it. We're getting a little bit closer, but we can't do it. So
we've had that same problem too.
Yeah, I had a friend post on Facebook on Mother's Day. Her mother passed away, I don't know, somewhere around 5 years ago. And it was just the most heartbreaking post. And it just said, I never thought to ask you who was in these photos. I never thought to write down the recipe because I never thought of life before or after you. And just knowing, because none of us want to think about that, but we all do have the family pictures. We don't know who's in, and we do just assume these things. And so making sure that we, like Holly said, have those conversations ahead of time, because life is not always predictable.
And we went through family photos with my dad when his great aunt died, and somebody went to the house and they just literally threw everything in a trunk, and they've had it for years. And we opened it up and we went through all these pictures, and there were a lot of duplicates that were easy to let go of. But then it even
easy for us.
But it was even a step further. And I was proud of him because it was very hard for him, but he did it. He didn't know a lot of the pictures, and they were old pictures. He didn't know who they were. So with us guiding him through that, saying, okay, you've got a limited amount of storage to store pictures. You're not going to have, all these pictures because nobody will ever look at them. If it's a carefully curated collection, we're going to flip through it and enjoy it. If it's, 6 boxes full of junk that nobody knows. So he let go of the ones where he didn't know who they were, which was a huge step. But it's just, setting aside the time, again, that none of us seem to have to do those things. I did a photo project with a client, and it was awesome. I mean, we went through all of our photos, took stuff out of the frames, and she ended up having her mother's funeral and a 50th reunion or whatever, and she could go right to those piles, access the photos she needed for them, and had them within 2 seconds because she had taken the time to do all of that. And it was, otherwise she was like, I would have been so stressed out trying to find every picture of my mother for the funeral, but I knew exactly where it was. And it was just making sure you take the time to do that. And that's where you have somebody like us come in, and we're just your cheerleaders and your motivators. And if you're going to set aside, if you're going to take the time to make an appointment and have us show up in your house,
you're going to do the work.
You're going to do the work. And you're going to have 2 extra sets of hands to help you do it. So that's,
it's just, making time for yourself.
Brandon, you got anything?
You mentioned something about morning routines. Is that something that y'all talk about with people too?
We do. Everybody operates very differently, Holly and I being 2 of those people. We really try to work with clients to figure out what their style is. Like my style of a morning routine, like we mentioned before, is very regimented. Like I have the same breakfast, and it's prepared ahead of time, and there are smoothie bags in the freezer, and there are all these things. I have a planner for the week out. I have the list from the night before. Holly's is totally different. But we do try to set up systems, whether it's, getting the kids clothes out the night before, having backpack staged, having kids be able to access certain things so they can gain some independence and some accountability, and helping parents with that. We've had, and it can be little things like moving all the kid-size cups and plates down to a drawer where they can reach them so they can make their own cereal, because they love to. I mean, they'll make a mess, but it's still part of them learning, right? Rather than you having to be asked every time they want their breakfast to be made. Putting things where they can access the clothing they're going to wear, if they get to choose what they're going to wear to school, whatever age they are or their abilities, making those things accessible so they can do that. So we help set up spaces where people can function.
And knowing what works and what doesn't for you, because I hate to quote Dr. Phil, but it's like, how's that working for you? Everybody does stuff right and it works, and they get caught up on the stuff that's not working. So look at what's not working for you. Like my youngest has ADHD, and if I send her back upstairs to go brush her teeth and her hair, she will never come back. I have lost her. So I would call it practical placement too. I put her toothbrush and her toothpaste, everything is in a half bath right before you walk out of our door, because that is what works. So you just find those little things that sometimes you need somebody else looking in, which again, fabulous. I have my sister. She can help me with that and see those areas that I'm getting frustrated. And it's a quick, hey, did you think to do this? Because everybody does operate, and we all have different challenges at home, different personalities. And I have a hook right by my back door for my son for his keys. We're still working on that. God help us. Then we even had to get him one of those beepers things. So when you lose your keys that are not on the hook that I have told you 15,000 times to put on the hook, it's just teaching those habits to your kids. Because it's the little purposeful places, designated spaces. We're all searching for things in the morning that we should know where they are. And that's one of the biggest things. I mean, just designated spaces for your stuff in the morning.
Well, because when everything has a home, you're much more likely to put it back because you know where it goes, rather than like, I'll just do this, I'm just going to shove this in a drawer. Then the next time you need to access it, you don't know where to get it. But if you know where it lives, you're going to put it back and you're going to know where to find it. And then with multiple people in a home, labels and all of those things are useful too. But yes, that's our goal, is really, again, systems and function, and helping people's lives be easier and less stressful so they can be happier, so their whole family is happier. That's really the goal. Really the goal.
So one of your things, and I know you've touched on it already, but it sounded like one of your goals was to go after more real estate agents, right? So what's the pitch to them? I'm guessing it's to help their clients declutter that 30%, essentially.
Essentially, and to make us, if we have to be the bad guy. I mean, I know that's hard when you're a real estate agent and you're going in and you know that this is going to bring them a better asking price, but it's hard to look somebody in the eye and say, you really got to get rid of this. When you're forming that relationship as a realtor, we can be the bad guy. I mean, we're not rude by means or anything like that, but similar to the family with the parents, like, we're the bad guy.
We're the objective party.
We can come in and say, hey, we really need to get rid of all this stuff, put it in a bin, put it under your bed, whatever that looks like. The realtor can sit back and be like, I don't know what they're talking about. Rude, whatever they want to do. But we can be that middleman to make it. And plus, I mean, the last realtor we worked with, who was amazing, she had a ton of stuff to do too. So, and her client was willing, because they were out of town, to have somebody else do everything. But we got in there and whipped it into shape with what we needed to do. She did what she needed to do, and it was done. House went on the market, sold the very first day, very first person that walked in. It's just a great team effort. It's similar to some interior designers we've talked to. They don't want to do the decluttering process either. Like, their gift comes in the design, in the all of that, which we don't do.
They're not interested in the other piece.
They're not interested in rolling up their sleeves. Not that they can't, or or too good for that. It's just not how their time is spent. That's how our time is spent. We actually love to do that. We love to get in there, and because it's we like the instant gratification of it a little bit too. It's a huge impact with that decluttering piece. So it's more of giving the realtors their time back, giving the family. I mean,
well, when your house is presented in the best light, I mean, obviously it's going to bring a higher, a higher selling price, which is going to be more profitable for everybody involved. And that's what people want. Space is so huge. People want to feel like they're maximizing their space, and that's exactly what decluttering does. It makes things look bigger.
And in the world of Instagram and Pinterest and all that, I mean, people want to walk in and be wowed with the closet and the pantry, and because that's the buzzword, right? So we try to, make those spaces look as fantastic as they can without, purchasing a bunch of new stuff or making, because they're about to move, they're not going to want to do all that, but really showcasing the functionality and the storage of the home, while, the realtor is maybe telling them to get rid of the personal family photos and the stuff like that. That's the obvious. We're in there rolling up our sleeves and, getting the stuff
because
done.
people are going to open every cabinet, every drawer, everything in your home when it's on the market.
And a well-organized home equals a well-cared-for home. If you walk into a house that's well-organized, you're going to think and believe that the people take care of that house. You walk in and it's a disaster. Hey, when's the last time they changed their air filter? When's the last time they had, it's just what's the maintenance schedule like on these people who, and we know that's not a true reflection of people, but that's just how society thinks. I mean, your house can be a disaster and you can be on top of every maintenance thing in your house. It's just you have 3 kids at home, and again, like they say, it's like eating Oreos and brushing your teeth. We all know what kids do to your house. It's crazy. But, it's just time well spent, and
it makes a difference. It's a lasting impression when people walk out of the house. I know I sold my house a year ago, and that was what I heard from everybody that came and toured it. And I was very fortunate because I was not expecting to have a great selling experience in South Carolina. And, I had 7 offers the first 2 days and got to choose and sold it above what I asked for it. And it was the organization. They just could not believe how great it looked. And it's not because it was the most fantastic house, but it looked like it was very well loved, and it was, and it presented extremely well because of those things. It does make you believe that everything has been maintained. If you took the time to do these little things, you must have done the things, right?
And we also do the unpacking part of it. Like when she moved here, this was awesome. It was, again, she picked up and left all her friends, left everything, moved on. I was like, stay, send your moving truck. I'm at the moving truck. I moved all of her stuff in, set everything up. Everything was ready to go, even down to the little touches. Like I printed out a picture of her and her friends at their goodbye dinner and put it on a refrigerator.
She did.
Everything was ready to go. So when she pulled up, it was already an emotional time for her. I mean, she was very excited to be here, but you're leaving your friends and everything you've known for the past 17 years. And she could walk into her house and be, and not worry about anything.
Well, and the fun part was too, is she had flown to South Carolina to help me pack. And we had a color-coded system on all the boxes, just, dining room, whatever, which we thought, like, who would not do that? The movers acted like it was like witchcraft. They're like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. This is amazing. I've never seen it. And it made it so easy. Every box came in, everybody knew exactly where to set it.
Yeah, they knew yellow was the dining room, so they just, when they got there,
they
they
had
just
tape
moved
all
everything. I
around,
told them where to go with it.
painter's tape around it, or washi tape, or whatever it is. We had a whole system. We thought we had a blueprint, we had drip on that where the piece of furniture was going to go, and it was just very seamless. So we can help on the front end. We don't pack to move, but we do unpack on the other end too. We've done that.
Awesome. That's I would have never thought to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Marketing girl.
Well, communications girl. You can call Tanya's phone number. She's our main line for our business is 901-355-7119. And then springersisters.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty easy to find.
Now, when you do look us up on YouTube, we're new, so expect a lot of, most people don't remember because this is Jerry Springer. There's a lot of sister fights on Jerry Springer, so if you pull up Springer Sisters, it's mostly Jerry Springer. So hopefully one day we'll rise up in that rate, because right now it's a lot of Jerry Springer tomfoolery.
In the world, yeah.
Awesome. I've been to the website. The website looks awesome. Did y'all do that yourself, or?
We actually, that was the one thing I had designed my own website and used Bluehost, and it was great because I'm the IT girl, but it is all self-taught. So I'm not going to win any awards on any of that. It is, I just learn as I go. But we hired a marketing company that redid our website for us, which we are extremely grateful for. They did a fantastic job because it's just not, again,
they've been a great partner for us.
Time is a valuable resource, and I was banging my head against the wall, having to learn code and this stuff that I was like, I just don't do that. She's just like, I'm not right. She's no. And I was like, I'm wasting all of my energy on this. I need it to be in this direction of the business and not here. So we finally just said, hey, let's have somebody help us out. So yeah, we turned that over.
Well, it looks awesome. Brandon, you got anything else, or?
No, that's all. I really appreciate y'all coming on. This was great.
Yeah.
Thank you. We are very glad to have been guests.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much. And we've got, hopefully we'll have this out in a few weeks. So we'll let you know and everything. But thank you for coming on, and we're excited to see your business as it continues to grow.
Well,
thank you. We appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Brandon.